Hi there, and a very warm welcome to the Transcend and Succeed show. And today I'm very pleased to introduce Dr. Terry Zachary, a former professional golfer and sports chiropractor who broke the code on faulty hand exercise and grip strength training. And he'll be here to tell us all about it after I introduce him. Watch this.
Hi, my name is Dr. Terry Zachary, and I developed Handmaster Plus because I regularly saw a poor understanding of hand exercise and grip strength training that was causing muscle imbalance and poor performance. Handmaster Plus strengthens the 9 muscles that close the hand, as well as the 9 muscles that open the hand, all through full natural ranges of motion using one convenient and cost-effective exercise device.
So Dr. Terry, welcome.
Hey, Dawn, thanks for having me. Looking forward to speaking with you today.
So am I. I'm really very much looking forward to it. So first time, will you tell us a bit about yourself then and when you realised that there was an issue with grip strength training?
Yeah, so, my story is, I grew up kind of as a sports junkie. I was involved in, many sports. That was my happy place as a kid, and always had a pretty relatively easy life in kind of retrospect. And the sport that won out as I got older was golf. I had a pretty good amateur career in my hometown. I was pretty successful as far as a golfer. Then went on to college and got my training in my vocation. I think golf actually got me interested in being a sports because golf demands so many technical details. As you get better and better, it's harder to improve. And as I did, I started to get interested in the body, and that was naturally led me in to become a chiropractor, and especially I was interested in sports chiropractic. But my dream of golf never died, really. I was still playing in local tournaments in the Vancouver, Canada area, which is very competitive, doing well. And I decided to take some time off of my practice to pursue a career as a professional golfer. I thought I had something to fall back on. It's probably the responsible way to do it, but that was my dream. I was playing the PGA Tour. That dream never happened, by the way, but I kind of failed on that path. But it's amazing how other paths, once I followed those passions of mine, other paths open. And what happened was I was traveling on mini tours, and I would inevitably be approached by one offers many injuries on tour. And it's not a way that injuries are compiled very often. They're usually compiled by, was it an elbow injury? Was it a back injury? Was it a wrist injury? And the big category that came up to me really was upper extremity injury. Yes, there was back. Yes, there was kind of shoulder, but the distal upper extremity injuries were striking to me. A lot of finger, thumb, hand, wrist, carpal tunnel, forearm, elbow problems. And those I know from being in practice. Remember, at that point, I was in practice for several years, and I treated these problems. Instead of just having somebody grip something when they're training, I would actually have them go through about 4 or 5, maybe 6 exercises that would bore you to tears if I told you about them all. And most of my patients, when I was in my office, it was easy to show them all these different exercise. But it was very inconvenient when I was out playing golf and trying to explain this quickly to other players. So to fast forward that, I saw all these problems on tour, and I had one particularly debilitating tennis elbow situation in a good friend of mine that I traveled with regularly. And that's when you develop something. And I had one of those, 3:00 in the morning aha moments where it all kind of came to me that instead of using 4 or 5 different items with a bunch of different exercises, I could accomplish it all, and actually with better range of motion, by hollowing out a ball, putting some resistance material, like material through it, and I could accomplish full range of motion in hand. I'll just try to show you. Like I could have them close and open and spread. And I thought, wow, I can get them to do that if this idea works, and I don't have to explain to them, a whole bunch of things. So that was kind of my path to grip stuff, is that I questioned something. And I know we speak about transcending. You and I have talked about this before, is that it came to grip strength, which a lot of people don't think is that important in your life, but we are always gripping. My story continued into all sports, all music, all workplace, ergonomics, hobbyists, everything, because it was grip. But it's very important. We're using our hands, and we're slowly building ourselves into a repetitive grip nature. We've got 9 muscles that close the hand that are basically located on the front of your fingers, thumbs, hand, wrist, carpal tunnel. And then we also, on the other side, have 9 muscles that open and spread the hand that are on the back of those finger, thumb, hand, wrist, carpal tunnel, forearm, and elbow. So all of those injuries and any kind of imbalance we see has a core in a repetitive gripping problem, which we're all doing. When I saw it on tour, I was still trying to play myself. I trained properly myself, but when I spoke to professional golfers, they had no idea what I was talking about. And when I started to train them with this particular rough prototype of what Handmaster Plus is today, the training worked really, really wonderfully. And I knew I had to develop more and change people's mindset about this body, about how wonderfully these grip muscles are set up, and how little attention we were actually paying to in traditional hand exercise, which is repetitive gripping. It's just not the way. It's very incomplete, and it leads to skill syndrome.
And I know that, traditional, I suppose, physiotherapy for some issues is all about the gripping, but they're not, addressing the back of the hand. So it's the same as your back issues. You've got to have a good core. Is that the same thing with the hand?
Yep. No, I often compare it, because people, and again, I'll go into that transcend idea, is we have to transcend these thoughts that if our conscious mind has never heard that, hey, I've got the same amount of muscles that close the hand as the muscles that open the hand, they cooperate in the grip. Right. So if I'm squeezing something, I'll show, like, say I'm squeezing a ball, and I show you from the back, well, these muscles are contracting just as much as these muscles are. So it's a cooperative co-contraction. And that might sound like a bunch of gibberish, but if I'm gripping something, if the muscles that open my hand, the supportive muscles, didn't, well, I'd be gripping a ball and the fingers would just be falling around. Grip wouldn't work. So but most people, Don, have never ever considered this idea, because we've shown, those coiled or spring loaded or a squeeze. And that's always been kind of the box that we're in, is that we believe that's hand exercise. And until you really study the design of the hand muscles, and that's what happened with me. I was fortunate that I'm so curious about the area. I tracked it even back into embryology, and it's in mom's womb. We're dropping this series of hand muscles down, not just the muscles that close the hand and the muscles that open hand, but even your forearm muscles that are controlling the position of the hand in grip. They all drop at the same time. And of course, they're developed during your life. But I felt together, not just let's just take these 9 muscles and squeeze. And I saw all the problems with my athletes in practice. Then I saw all the problems with the professional golfers when I was on tour. And there was no doubt in my mind that we were doing this improperly. The question was, how do we make an exercise that somebody can do? They don't have to hear me yap about all the hand muscles. It's very confusing. I just wanted people to take a ball, close it, take a cord, open and spread it. And that right there is most of what a hand exercise is. So yeah, it's that thinking outside of the box. And I knew the traditional hand exercise was completely misunderstood. And it's misunderstood in sports, many sports to this day, and all throughout the music industry to this day. We do talk to a lot of people in ergonomics. The dental profession is really bad. Dental hygienists, for example. It is a rampant problem. It takes is just to change somebody's understanding of what their grip muscles are. So once they hear somebody say, I've got 9 muscles to close the hand, I've got 9 muscles to open and spread the hand. Once you know that and you've heard that, your conscious mind isn't going to let you do hand exercise wrong again. So this is why we're on these programs like yourself, that you will now understand it's a miraculous setup, these hand muscles. But once you know them and you understand grip, you won't do it wrong again. And that's one of our goals, is to just say, this area is important, and you're going to run into a lot of problems with repetitive gripping. For example, finger problems, thumb problems, carpal tunnel problems, wrist problems, forearm problems, elbow problems. They are all grip joints and grip structures. So if your grip is imbalanced, they are going to be imbalanced. At some point, you're going to have a symptom, and then, it's too late. It's like bad posture. If I leave bad posture for a long time, I'm going to eventually have some problems somewhere in my spine or in my ribs or in my neck.
But you were in an excellent position with the job that you were doing, to actually help solve this problem, right?
I think I was in probably the best position. I was very blessed. First of all, with my curiosity as an athlete, and then with my curiosity as a clinician, and then further with my natural training of the spine, where it truly is repetitive grip imbalance this is what we're trying to address, is rampant in our world. And they might see it as, well, repetitive grip, does that mean your hand hurts? Well, it might mean that you have problems at your elbow, might mean you have problems at your forearm, at your carpal tunnel. Then often when they hear something like carpal tunnel syndrome, they don't think about repetitive grip. Or if they hear about tennis elbow, they don't think about repetitive grip. I'll tell you, it's always the grip situations where those are rampant. So yes, we do have to realize that this grip is it's not a small problem. It's an enormous problem. And I think when I first looked into it, I only wanted to for athletes, and then it just, everywhere I looked, it was the same problem, same symptoms, and we had a great solution.
Mm-hmm. I know what you're talking about with the grip, because I don't play golf, but I do like to go to the driving range. My husband and I like to go to the driving range, and usually we'll hit, say, 100 balls between us, and by the time I come home, my hands are sore. They are absolutely sore.
Yeah, it's another thing, Don, where like a lot of times when we're talking on health shows, we're talking about, well, you're going to develop this condition or that condition, and let's be careful. But you also bring up a good point, is in golf specifically, but I can bring this probably, I'm a little bit more expertise at the golf side of things. But when we train the mechanics of grip properly, and we train all the muscles, your grip strength goes up, and it doesn't really plateau and then go down. If something, I'm just squeezing it all the time. People that do that, traditionally it's been accepted. So it must work there must be some moments where they say, I can tell I'm getting stronger, because you will over time. If I'm gripping and I'm gripping, your grip strength will go up, but it'll plateau because the muscles are imbalanced. So it'll plateau. And then when you run into any problems with any of those joints or structures that we talked about, then your grip strength actually starts going down, and then you have injuries and all that stuff. When you train properly, your grip strength goes up, and it kind of plateaus and stays up because you've got strength and balance. You've built it properly. Now, to bring that back to when your husband and yourself go out and hit golf balls, or say you got into golf, or your husband got right into golf, grip strength then becomes a factor. In golf, you actually do want to be able to have a pretty light grip, right? You want to let the club just its own. The professional golfers don't grip it really tight, but to be able to grip it fairly light and let the club really release well, you have to have strong hands. If your hands are really weak, the club, you're not going to have control of the club. So to have strong hands is really an advantage. Grip it harder, but so that you can allow your grip to be fairly light and you still have control of the golf club. It's not a game, as people get to the higher level, it's not a game where there's just a bunch of weak league. You've got to be an athlete. And then as you get better and better at golf, you play tough golf courses that have, if you miss the fairway, the rough is pretty deep. And then you actually need to be able to call on that grip strength to get the club through the thicker grass. So on every level, on most sports, most musical endeavors, most, any endeavor that you have, and having strong, healthy hands is an enormous advantage, for performance, but of course also for prevention of injuries.
Sure, but not just for golf, for lots of things. And I know we discussed, my husband plays guitar, and he's been getting some issues with his wrist, So when I told him about what it was that you were doing, he was quite keen to learn more. So we'll see how he whether he decides he wants to go ahead and move this. Can you just explain to us about how long it took you to develop that product, the Handmaster?
Yeah. It was, it was never in my mind. When I was in practice, as we spoke about, I could see that there was a problem with hand exercise. I could see this, but in my practice, I always had time to talk to my patients. Here, take this elastic band. Now you got to change the elastic band around. Take this ball, take this. We had different bands. We had lots that we used. So in my practice, I didn't really think about it. When I started traveling with professional golf, and I traveled for about 3 years, and I would say after about 1 year, that's when this friend of mine, I saw so many injuries that were repetitive gripping based. I would ask the golfer, what do you do? You can always take a history. I'd still take a history, even though I was only talking to them on the golf club. Clinically, you still have to get the pieces right. They would inevitably, I would say, what do you do for training your hands? They would inevitably say, I take something and squeeze it, which is the most common, be a racquetball or a spring-loaded or a coiled grip type of thing, which is traditionally what people think is hand exercise, which it's not. Or they wouldn't do anything because they're gripping all day, right? If you're not playing, as a professional golfer, it is so competitive. You're practicing your short game, you're hitting bunker shots, you're hitting chips, you're always gripping all day. So after about a year, I realized, and after about speaking to many, many people, I realized there was a problem. And then I said I probably had that aha moment. I would say about a year in, I just made a few of these rough prototypes, and that was good enough for while I golfed. But once I realized I wasn't good enough to play, to play on the PGA Tour, and I needed to make a living, as I got back into chiropractic, it probably took me about, I would say, 2 years through about, a lot of people help me with it. Here's how you look at making a mold. Here's how you do CAD drawings. Here's all this. And I just had many excellent people help me through that. And that was probably a process of about, I would say, 2 years. And then, once we got the final prototypes, it was very exciting. I mean, it was not only that I could accomplish this through this team, but also that I knew I could help. I knew I could help just a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think now's a good time. We'll just take a quick break, but stick with us because Dr. Terry is going to tell us about a golf trick. So we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Bobby Aldridge with BAM Metrics. There are so many programs out there that measure your swing speed, sets, reps, your BMI, your body fat, but the one thing they're not measuring that's so essential is mobility. Mobility is the key. If you're measuring your mobility, your performance will get better and you will reduce your pain. I created BAM Metrics to make it easy for people to repeat the exercises so they could do it properly at home on their own. It's simple, it's easy to do, and from a senior to a pro athlete.
Holy Hydrogen introduces the most powerful health enhancement device in the world, the Lord's Hydrofix Premium Edition. Studies have shown therapeutic potential for cancer, diabetes, digestive and heart issues, and essentially every organ and system in the body. Visit holyhydrogen.com to see the latest technology that elevates your immune system and fights inflammation. This isn't medical advice, but if you have any health concerns, I strongly recommend that you learn more about hydrogen. Visit holyhydrogen.com to learn more about this groundbreaking gold standard hydrogen generator that for a reasonable price creates therapeutic quality hydrogen gas for inhalation and hydrogen infused water for consumption. Remember, holyhydrogen.com.
Hi, I'm Sarah Stockham, and I'm host of Simply Sarah. Join me Thursdays at 3 p.m. Pacific on the Achieve TV network for the best energetic tools to elevate your amazing life right here on E360 TV.
And welcome back. We are here today with Dr. Terry Zachary. We're talking hand strength today and hand exercises. But first, Dr. Terry, tell us about your golf trick.
About my golf what? Sorry, I didn't get that question.
Your golf trick.
Trick?
Mm-hmm.
Golf trick. Wow. Okay. This is probably an old trick. I still do it occasionally for my kids. So the golf trick that I probably did the most, entertaining people back in the day when I was a pretty good golfer, is I would take a golf ball, clean it off usually, and I would put it in my mouth. And what I would do is just then no golf ball on the ground, and I would take a backswing, spit the golf ball out, and be able to hit it. And it would look like most of the time almost like a normal shot. It took a little bit of practice, and there's a little bit of a trick to it about the timing. But people, when I would hit it, and when I hit it really good, I would only hit it once. I wouldn't try to repeat it because it would leave quite an impression in people's mind. It's a tough shot to hit well, but it's not that tough of a shot to hit. And that's the only secret I would give to it. But if you hit it well, don't do it again. Leave it at that.
I have a hard job hitting the ball when it's on the mat, never mind when it's falling down.
You get with golf, and nowadays I'm not, I still play, but I'm not near as good as I used to be. And that shot is a little bit harder for me nowadays. I do it for my I've done it for my kids before, and they are pretty impressed. But I don't do it. I'm not successful as I used to be with really good shots.
It's still pretty cool. Okay, so if you could tell us a little bit about the type of injuries that you would see from your clients in your business, relating to bad hand strength.
Yeah, that's I think a good question for the audience to hear, because it's one of those things where we think grip and we think, oh, if there's a problem with my grip, it's my hands or my finger or my thumb might be the problem. And as we said, now I'm going to expand what we've talked about a little bit, because it'll have some clarity, is that 9 muscles that close the hand. Okay, I have the 9 muscles that open and spread the hand. Those are the main hand muscles. But when we're talking grip muscles, we also have muscles throughout our forearm that will extend and flex and rotate and deviate our wrist from where we are. If I'm a golfer or a hockey player or a gymnast or a guitar player or a dental hygienist, which we've talked about, or a gamer, my position is going to be a little bit specific to what my grip activity is. And that's for a fitness professional. That's what you have to evaluate, where the injuries are coming from. When you train, though, the exercises are very basic. Close, open, and spread is our main one. And to fully train grip, we close against the ball, we open and spread, and then we go through your exercise with our wrist. And that way we train the 9 muscles that close the hand, the 9 muscles that open the hand, and the 9 muscles that position the wrist in whatever grip position is in your grip activity. I know that sounds complicated, but as you digest it, it'll make sense. So now, to get back to your question, Don, is what injuries do we see all the time? Well, because of how complicated grip is, not just the 18 muscles, now we're talking about 27 muscles. That's where the most common injuries I would probably see would be carpal tunnel problems. The carpal tunnel is easily shut down. If I show you this to you, if say I'm a painter and I've got a paintbrush in my hand and I'm painting away, well, I can see that carpal tunnel right there. That's collapsed just by me doing that. If I don't do anything to offset the muscles and to strengthen that carpal tunnel and bring blood flow and lymph drainage, we'll talk about that next, because that's a really important, I didn't even know about until I got years into training the hands kind of as a specialty. So the injuries we see the most, I think you mentioned a guitar player that you know very well that might have some arthritic changes. Yep. Arthritis is a common thing that we see. Breakdown of the carpal tunnel, probably up there. Arthritis of the joints, finger, thumb, usually wrist, those joints. And then I would say the next most common injuries we see are elbow problems. So a tennis elbow, a golfer's elbow. And again, it just speaks to that idea that if I'm going to try to show you, if I'm squeezing those muscles that close the hand, come down and they will attach onto the medial side of my elbow. The muscles that open the hand will come down and attach onto the outside of my elbow. If I'm only like my golfers, if they're only squeezing, they're going to shorten their whole thing, and that can cause problems like finger, thumb, hand, wrist, carpal tunnel, forearm, all the way to the elbow. If it's not offset by training on the opposite, you're going to deal with those imbalances. So tennis elbow, you're going to hear things like tennis elbow, golfer's elbow, or epicondylitis, lateral epicondylitis being tennis elbow, medial epicondylitis being a golfer's elbow. But there's also guitar players will commonly hear cubital tunnel syndrome. I don't know if your husband's there, but some of the chronic guitar players, cubital tunnel syndrome is common. Radial tunnel syndrome is common, because it might, again, sound outside of the box to many of the audience people, but the elbow is a grip joint. And you'd be thinking, well, what are you talking about? I don't grip anything with my elbow. No, but the muscles that do the grip and support the position of your wrist attach at your elbow. If you don't get that right, you're going to have elbow problems, and then you're not going to understand the cause. So you can say, well, my elbow feels better now. I iced it. I rested it. I might have taken cortisone shot, depending how bad it is. Well, you haven't got anywhere near the understanding of what the elbow does. So you haven't got to the cause. And I will guarantee you, that whole flexor chain has not been corrected compared to the extensor chain or the opening chain. And you're going to have problems continually somewhere in your fingers, thumb, hand, wrist, maybe back at the elbow. So it's really something where the injuries we saw are very diverse because the grip muscles are very diverse. And that's, I know it's a long explanation, but that's when you're talking about 27 muscles in an area. This is the only area we're going to ever talk 27 muscles. That's what grip is. And so, yes, the elbow is a grip joint. The carpal tunnel is a grip structure. And until we understand that, we're going to continue to chase these injuries. We're going to continue to not prepare bodies properly to avoid these injuries. And we're not going to have elbows that thrive, carpal tunnels that thrive, forearms that thrive, wrists that thrive. And as we get into blood flow and lymph drainage, that's where we could talk more about arthritis as well. Like what you're talking about with your husband, very common in guitar players, very common over time to develop arthritis. Same with many grip professions.
Okay, because typically when people go to the doctor with these kind of symptoms, it's anti-inflammatories or it's the cortisone injections like you were talking about, but never any education about how to exercise the hand and the arm and the wrists properly, which could probably just really help on the build up to whatever it is that they are doing. I think it's fantastic information, because to exercise the hand and the arms first, as somebody's eaten my words, it begins with a P. Preventative, thank you, is a preventative measure rather than going harshly down the route of injections and a main course of anti-inflammatories. I think it's great information, but please, can you explain about the lymph drainage?
Yeah. So, and I think what's interesting, always, Don, when we talk about this and people say, well, you're kind of the hand guy, like you're so interested in grip and hand muscles. And I will often tell them, hey, the reason I got interested in our body is because I don't think we have anything near right yet. So this is just one example. What you said, I will get to the lymph drainage concept because it's very, very important. But even what you said, we've got to look at different paradigms. And the reason I brought up the fact that, you can take anti-inflammatories for your elbows come home, but it is not a lack of anti-inflammatory medication in your body that's causing an elbow problem. At some point, the reason we get to these, and this is nothing against any practitioner that's doing that, because I will tell you, this was shocking to me. Before I got really into a deep, there is no information on it. This is new knowledge about this most importantly used part of our body. It still blows me away to this day. And when I talk to practitioners and fitness professionals, and I tell them, the first thing you have to change in your mind is thinking what the elbow is. Like, what does the elbow do? The elbow is a grip structure. And it takes them a little while to blend into that, but then they finally go, wow, that's actually true. What I'm doing with my elbow, I'm usually gripping something and turning it around. So sorry, I didn't mean to go on a side note, but it's really important that we first understand if there's a paradigm, here's completely healthy, and here is, in having a debilitating condition. We have to look at what's causing this. Like, we have to not just go right to here's anti-inflammatories, here's surgery, here's cortisone shot. We have to look at what in the heck is an elbow? What is a carpal tunnel? How to thrive? And that's what I'm working on. I can show people how to do it, and we can show these exercises. And then you never go down this paradigm into disease and weakness and condition. But we're just this area, this stuff isn't known about grip yet. And that's why we're doing this. Now, let's go into lymph drainage. I know I'm answering it in a funny way. But there is very little understanding of this grip area. It's just like, well, take something and grip, hang from something and grip. No, you are making many joints and many structures imbalanced by doing that if you don't understand the anatomy and the function. So when we do the exercise, and I'll put one on here, but the same thing I talked about, Don, when I close again, your audience can just take their hand, close it for a count of one. That's going to strengthen the 9 muscles that close your hand. Okay, pretty simple. They can open and spread. So as I open and spread like that, I strengthen the 9 muscles that open and spread. They're on the back of my hand. Okay. Now, while that hand is open and spread, I want them to do a figure 8 at their wrist. So if you just do a figure 8 as wide as you can, you make an 8. Okay, as wide as you can. So, and you're going to go, sorry, I'm terrible at this with the camera, but I'm going to close for 1, open and spread for 1, figure 8. So when I close, there's the 9 muscles that close the hand. I open and spread, there's the 9 muscles that open and spread my hand. I do my figure 8. I do a coupling motion of all 9 muscles that control the position of my wrist. I go through a full range of motion, okay? So all we do with Handmaster Plus, now this is a soft one. It's purple with the yellow cord. I actually gave my sample medium one away, but all I'm going to do is I'm going to slip that on the thumb. I'm going to slip the fingers on the finger loops. There's nothing complicated about this, Don. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to squeeze now against a little bit of resistance of a softball. I'm going to open and spread against the cord. If you can see that, I'm not controlling that. And now while I'm open, I'm going to do a figure 8 at the wrist. Okay, so close, open and spread, figure 8. Once you do that, you're training 27 muscles through their full natural range of motion with resistance. And you'll see that if I do this for 1 minute, I am at the soft one. Okay, so these are muscles that most people don't use at all. Now, when I do that figure 8 exercise, I've taken all the muscles through their full natural range of motion. So I'm going to keep them strong, long, balanced, their full range of motion in this exercise. My brain is saying, wow, Terry is taking all these muscles through their full range of motion. My innate intelligence tells me I better open up blood flow. I better make my blood flow more efficient to that area because he's exercising that area now. Or in that area now, your innate intelligence says, open the blood flow, maximize the lymph drainage, because we have to get nutrients there and we have to get end products of muscle contraction and toxins out of there. So it's a really big deal. Arthritis situations, most people have been, squeezing whatever all day. They're a trade person. They've been doing that all their life. So they've never developed proper blood flow or proper lymph drainage to that area. By doing full range of motion, like any other joint in your body, if I'm using it through a full range of motion, your body innately, my environment, I'm going to maximize it, and it opens up blood flow and better lymph drainage to that area. And that's how we keep healthy. So this concept that we don't care about our hands, who cares? It's just our hands. Well, it's this really diverse architecture that happens to need blood flow. And the more we get blood flow to the periphery, you're going to see that there is about a half a dozen large studies that show that when grip strength and life longevity are directly proportional. And people can look that up, or they can go to our website and see the monster studies. So bringing activity to your periphery and bringing blood flow and lymph drainage helps your body, because the lymph ducts are basically right in here, and that's what drains lymph from your body. That's our sewage system. So I want to really get people to realize, hey, just for your function, and preventing injury, pay attention to these hands if you want to perform well. But lifelong, we're talking about life longevity. We got to get blood flow and lymph drainage throughout our body. And if you get it to the periphery, you're gonna stimulate some really, really healthy daily habits. So we push. It's an important area, and it's just been left by the wayside by most people, even in health and fitness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, good blood flow brings the oxygen and the nutrients, doesn't it? And the lymph will actually take out the toxins as well. So good stuff in, bad stuff out, and we've got to look after it.
It's the lose it stuff. It's a simple comment, but you use it or you lose it. I heard somebody say like the motion is the lotion of life type of thing, and that's, you have to move. You have to move. And you have to move in balance. And if you do, your body is amazing at taking care of itself. But
yeah.
But if you, that's like, obviously we're huge on a good diet, on a really good diet, and having good nutrients and making sure the biome is really good. But if your body's not moving, you need to do it all. You need to be very holistic in your approach. And hand exercise is a really big deal. And again, hugely underrated.
Yeah. I mean, why were the grip muscles and the kind of traditional hand exercises, why were they misunderstood for so long?
That is a question, Dawn, I ask myself probably every day that I've been doing this, since I really, started looking into, since I saw golf professionals suffering so bad. I'm like, why has nobody seen this before me? I just assumed, but we talk to therapists that are on the highest level in golf, and there's, I shouldn't say all of them, because now we've talked to many of them, and they're using our stuff, right? Because it makes sense when you're able to speak to them person to person. But before that, there were still many saying, here, just get a tennis ball and squeeze it. And I'm going like, that's crazy. Why is it? Because I think we are, again, it's that paradigm. We're in a box. When I was a kid, Don, they told me take something and squeeze it. Everybody was doing that. So it wasn't anything where people weren't trying to exercise hands. The people that were telling you to exercise hands weren't very educated about it or looked very deep into it. Mm-hmm. And I think myself personally, I was a little bit blessed that I was in a position where I knew golf well, so the golfers trusted me. I knew the hand muscles well because I'd done it in practice and specifically for some reason had an interest in this. And so I knew that there was a problem. For whatever reason, this concept of how to exercise the hands properly, that figure 8 exercise, your whole audience can do that every day without resistance, and they're going to get some benefit. And all as I did is looked at the problem, realized there was a problem, and then this wonderful design of the grip through full range of motion, just like any other joint. And so we simplified it, but you can't simplify the exercise if you didn't know the anatomy and the function to begin with. Mm-hmm. And so it was like nobody took the time to do a deal, it seemed like to me. And now we get to tell people, and we get to really wake people up about this. And it's pretty easy to do once you can explain it to them. And I know I've talked a lot, even on your show, but once you hear it, it has a place to land after that when you think about it more.
It's awareness, isn't it? I mean, you don't realize there's a problem until somebody makes you aware of it. Yeah. And then once you understand it, you can't ununderstand it. It's That's always right. there, and you've got a whole new perception of it. Yeah.
Yeah. People just need a place for it to land, and if they've never, it's like, what do you, like, I remember the golfers when I said, well, what do you do for the muscles that open and spread your hand? They would go, what are you talking about? But the next time I would talk to them, now they said, oh yeah, I can't believe I wasn't doing this. It seems so obvious. That's the thing, is we have to just I'm really careful about putting my mind in a box about anything and saying, yeah, I know it all. Because even as I was learning about these hand muscles, something new would come up all the time. And then you slowly develop your exercises different. And that figure 8 exercise we didn't use till probably I was 6 or 7 years into doing hand exercise. So you really have to chew all the chicken off the bone to understand a subject in health. You do. It can't just be like, one bullet for one enemy. You can't just say, I've got tennis elbow, put some ice on it. It's not that simple.
We need to start ripping those labels off the boxes that we've been put in, and open our mind to different possibilities and opportunities and different things like you've designed, because it's so simple, isn't it?
It is. And I think the first step that has to happen is people have to, it's a hard thing to say, people have to have respect for this miraculous body that they're a part of. And we're told, oh, you're kind of you're no Michael Jordan. You didn't make the PGA Tour, you're no Tiger Woods. It doesn't, so we devaluate ourselves. But when you look at the design and you really clearly look at this miraculous design that we technically built ourselves from scratch, from 2 little cells. And once you get a little bit wowed by it, then you no longer, buy into these simplistic little concepts of health. You actually pay attention to, hey, how do I exercise? How do I think? How do I provide service? What do I eat? It's a holistic approach to your life.
Sure
and
is.
It's not just one little thing and you'll figure it out. No. It's a journey to figure this all out.
Yeah, look after everything, because everything is connected, like you've explained about, your wrist and your front and your back of your hand and up to your elbow. It all works in the same way. So everything's connected. I totally understand that. So I know that you've written a book. Do you want to talk a little bit about your book?
So I guess I'll show it really quick for anybody that's interested. We can only talk so much about the hands, but this is the book. It's called Great Hands, Great Life. It's available, I think, mostly on Amazon is the easiest way. But then it gets into a little more of the deep dive. Like we've heard a lot in this program, actually, Don. So it's a good introduction, but it just gets into more of what we've talked about. And if somebody's, it mentions a lot more about different athletes and different types of musicians, maybe some workplace injuries, gets into the blood flow and lymph drainage and some of the studies for the years that they've showed about grip strength and life longevity. We just really want to influence people to respect the design of your body and don't interfere with it. Like, all I did is look at the design of the body and said, let's go with this. But if, you have to respect this amazing design and then just work with it. And I think the book gets into a little bit more of the details of it. But as long as there's 9 muscles that close your hand, 9 muscles open your hand, 9 muscles control the position of your wrist. Really won't exercise your hands poorly anymore. And again, you'll see some other big changes in your life if you do it regularly. It's blood flow and lymph drainage is hugely important to our health.
So how did, after you explained this to your clients, this movement, how did they find it? Did they find a reduction in their pain?
Sorry, it kind of froze there, Dawn.
I was just asking if, when your clients, you were explaining the hand movements to your clients, how did that help their pain and their performance?
Yeah, it's always been really good. And in the other thing, I don't ever say that use Handmaster Plus on its own and everything's going to be. I'd love to see people train when they're healthy and start with Handmaster Plus, and I don't think you'd see a bunch of these debilitating conditions develop. I'm quite confident in that. But if somebody does have an injury and they're coming, like I did soft tissue work, we did joint adjustments, I mean, you should be seeing, if you're having an injury condition, you should see a healthcare professional, and they have protocols to stimulate healing quicker. But then if there has been an imbalance that comes, then as a recovery, that Handmaster Plus becomes an amazing recovery tool, so that you train properly the second time, or whenever you kind of become aware of grip imbalances, then you recover and you train properly, and you're likely never to see these things come back. But if you do have a condition like carpal tunnel syndrome, you have to go to a health professional. When we worked with it in practice, it was fantastic. But I would do, soft tissue. I would do adjustments and soft tissue work back in those days, and then they would start retraining these muscles, these 27 muscles properly. And I never had great results until we started using Handmaster Plus for the recovery side of things, and then it just made sense.
Absolutely does. It does. So what has been your biggest lesson learned through your journey?
Well, that's a great question. Again, I think I would go back to the concept that to follow your passions. That sounds a little cliche, but I think intuition is a very, very powerful thing, and it's kind of gets flighted off a little bit. Oh, just your intuition. Well, no. Designed a certain way. I look at people, even like in my family. My brother's an accountant. He's an unbelievable accountant. He's unbelievable with numbers. He should go with numbers. But we're just built, to me, to be on a path, and intuition is the language that will speak on that path. And as I followed that path, people would think I'm crazy to try to try to play professional golf, but I believed I could do it. Whatever it was, it always led me to a good place. And now I get to work with people like literally around the world. I get to work with like musical bands I never dreamed of that I was.
Are you allowed to tell us what bands you work with?
Geez, I don't like. I've worked with professional athletes too, and when we talk to them, they don't want us name dropping like crazy. But one of them's it's a Hall of Fame band. I can't say their names all the time, but
I was just asking, just in case.
Yeah, nobody had an NBA final. I believe it was in 2018 or 19, where both the starting guards were using our product because they had dislocated fingers at one point. So we've had some great stories, and I think just being able to speak to people, any famous people, it's just speaking with anybody where you get them through a problem in their life and you help to understand a problem they might be having. And especially once I know, hey, if you keep this up, you're going to see bigger changes than just your carpal tunnel being more like your carpal tunnel will thrive. Yes. But I know your fingers and your thumb, and I know that you're going to get peripheral blood flow and lymph drainage. And I know there's going to be benefits to your life. So a lot of this stuff where you land and you don't make the PGA Tour, and I was not happy, I wasn't really happy that I didn't make those goals, but it's amazing that you follow that intuition that are just fabulous.
Yeah. Intuition is definitely a thing. So, awareness and thinking out the box, looking at different ways of doing things, look at this as a wonderful preventative measure as well is fantastic. I'm going to put your information up here. We have about 2 minutes left. So if there's anything else that you want to say to the audience, please go ahead.
I think that always my message is that the only thing that I ever did, and I'm not saying this is about like the product is really good. I have no problem with pitching the product at all. The exercise is extremely good, range of motion exercise, but all it's based on is having respect for the design of the body. That's what I did. I said, if I'm going to make a solution, I got to learn how this body works, and I continued to follow that path, and I a lot of times, things that we believe are true, about the places that we have it right, but there's lots of places that we don't. And I just say, question everything when it comes to health and fitness, and look for ways that you can become a little bit better at who you are and what you do. And this is one where it's black and white. If you do anything in a grip, sports or music or your workplace or your hobby, or you're a gamer or whatever, this is a place you can improve on just from what we've talked about today in a big way. And I think that's what we like. So always look at it in your life as you look to get better. How can I get better? And we want to contribute this, but I'm better, and to, be better to my wife and kids and all that stuff, and be better maybe to my community. So this is just a reflection of a lot of other things, but grip has been really misunderstood inside the box, and we're changing that every day. So I enjoy that.
Well, you've certainly educated me today. I've really enjoyed learning, I have to say. Thank you so much, Dr. Terry. We've had a great conversation, and I hope people find it as educational as I have. So thank you so very much. I wish you all the best and good success with your business.
Well, thanks, Donna, and thanks for having me on the show. Like, able to the audience about this is a thrill for me and an opportunity for me. And if people ever need to get a hold of me with questions, they can go info@doczac.com, and I answer all the questions about health and fitness myself. So feel free.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And thank you for the viewers, whether you're watching live or on demand, and we hope you'll tune in next week. Thank you, Dr. Terry. Take care.
Thanks.